I'm Marianne Esposito.
And I'm Lee Esposito.
I don't want you to get the wrong idea now. We're not married, but Lee has a wonderful meat market here in the Italian district of South Philadelphia. And I want to get one of your wonderful turkey breasts because I want to make a very easy Thanksgiving dinner for myself. So I know you've got what I need.
Sure thing. If you follow me inside, we'll get right to it.
Okay. Tomasino, hey Mariana.
Mariuccia, ciao! Venga, venga!
You didn't mind that I took that.
No, go right ahead.
I'm glad you're not using goat's ears and eyes any longer.
Almost needed a crane for that. I wish you could be here to smell this. Mine are perfetto. And it tastes absolutely wonderful. Now tell me that that does not look festive. I'm Marianne Esposito. Ciao. Lee Esposito of Esposito's Meat Market knows what I want when it comes to preparing a Thanksgiving turkey Italian style. No struggling, easy cooking, and a well-seasoned bird. This is the kind of Thanksgiving dinner that I like to do. I know most people like to do a whole turkey stuffed, but in my family, nobody likes dark meat. So I want just the white meat, and I want you to butterfly it for me because then I want to stuff it. Now, you've been doing this since you've been 9 years old, right?
Yes.
So you can probably bone that turkey a lot quicker than I can, right? And I actually want you to leave the skin on, too, on the outside because that's going to keep the meat nice and juicy. So just, you keep working on that because I'm going to make the stuffing. And for the stuffing, I have in this pan, you're probably going to like this now, some chestnuts that I roasted, a little bit of olive oil, and some prosciutto. And I've just browned that a little. After the prosciutto is browned, I'm going to add some other ingredients. And here are the prosciuttos that I think are absolutely wonderful. Of course, the prosciutto di Parma, which is the classic prosciutto that most people know. And then this one, the prosciutto di San Daniele. And you carry both of them, right, on a regular basis?
Yes, we do.
And you've cut some prosciutto di San Daniele up for me. And now most people know that this is just raw, cured ham. And a prosciutto like this just needs salt, thyme, and air, right? And then it's cured. And it has to cure for about, what, a year or so?
The better ones are
about a year. Okay. All right, so now that I've got my prosciutto and my chestnuts that I roasted, and here are a few of those chestnuts that I left out, we can put in some breadcrumbs. Those I've browned in a little bit of olive oil. Doesn't this sound good?
Sounds delicious.
And I'm going to let that go a little bit. And then with that, I want some fresh flat leaf parsley. See how easy this is? And you could actually make this, 3 days ahead, this can be done. And then I want some fresh rosemary in that. I'm just going to take that off the stem like that and just chop that up a little bit. Just want to chop that up a little bit. And then put this in. Some of the rosemary. That's going to give that a nice flavor. And then the only thing that this really needs now is some Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. So I'm going to put a good handful of the cheese in and just mix that in. I didn't put a lot of salt in this because, of course, the cheese is salty to begin with. Now we're ready. Now we've got to kind of flatten that down a little bit because we have to roll that. We have to roll the...
Are you going to do this like a jelly roll?
Yeah, I'm going to do it like a jelly roll.
Okay, so we want it a little on the thin side.
So a little bit on the thin side. Sometimes what I do is I kind of make a little pocket here or there. So half of this is going to be maybe about 3.5 pounds.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what my stuffing will probably be good for, about
Would you want to work with a
3.5
half,
pounds.
do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's use a half. And then we can just flatten that down a little bit. This takes a little bit of dexterity when you roll it, so I want it as flat as I can get it. Okay, you know when
it's going to be...
when it's rolled, no one's going to know about all those little side indentations. So now we put some of this on, and whatever stuffing doesn't fit on this turkey breast, we're going to put right on top of the turkey as it's baking in the oven later on. So I'm going to pat that down. Okay, and I'm going to let you roll that. I think I can get most of that on. And you really need a big butcher block like this to do this. Okay, there you go. Now you can roll it. And then what we want to do is tie that with some string. It's looking good. Don't worry about the stuffing that falls out because that can go right back over the top. Wonderful. Okay, now we want to tie that up. First put the skin back on.
Place our skin.
That'll keep that nice and moist. And now some twine. You know, I have my own method for tying roast, but I want to see how you do it. This takes some practice to learn. I'm going to have a lot of other things to go with this, but I kind of think it's nice to have an Italian-style Thanksgiving, and this turkey breast really fills the bill for that. That's going to hold that very nicely in place. Now this is going to feed, I would say about 6 people. Or 3.5 pound. If we had used the whole one, of course, we'd be getting double out of that.
Yeah, this should feed 6 people fine.
Easy. Now, you know, mostly in Italy, you find this type of a turkey dish in northern Italy more than you would in any other part of Italy. In the south, you don't see so much turkey. But I had this dish actually in Umbria, in the central region of Italy. It was wonderful. Well, I think it's all ready to go. What do you think?
Looks good.
Okay. Well, a bird in the hand like that is worth something else to go with it. You and I need to go nella cucina, where I'm going to put together the finishing touches on an Italian-style Thanksgiving. Now, I think Lee Esposito did a great job on tying the turkey breast for me. And here, all I've done now is brown this in a little bit of olive oil, you see? And now what I want to do is take this out and put it on a rack that goes in the oven, because now the turkey, of course, the turkey breast gets finished in the oven. And with the drippings in the pan, you can add, a little bit of white wine, and then just scrape those up a little bit, because that's now all very good flavor for the roast, and this is going to help keep this roast very flavorful. So you want to get all those drippings up, and then just pour this right over the top of the roast, just like that. And now that is ready for the oven. So your oven is on, around 350 degrees. We're going to put this in, and every once in a while I'm going to go back and baste the turkey with a little bit of that white wine. Now, while that turkey is cooking, we have to have the other thing that goes with turkey. And if you want to make this an Italian Thanksgiving, you want to start with some cranberries. And here we have fresh cranberries. And yes, there are cranberries in Italy. If you're in northern Italy, you'll see cranberries used a lot, especially with venison. So in a pot, some fresh cranberries. Here we have about 3 cups. You can also make a double recipe of this. And if you haven't got fresh cranberries, well, then you can use frozen cranberries. Now, what's going to make this special is a little bit of sugar. And I like my cranberry sauce a little bit on the tart side. So I put, about a half a cup of sugar in this. If you like yours a little sweeter, then you can add a little bit more sugar. You're just going to have to taste it as you go along. And then with it, here, we want some fresh rosemary, rosmarino in Italian. Now, dried will not work for this, so you want to make sure that you're using fresh rosemary. And you can either put it in whole, like that, because I want to take that out later, or you could take it off the stem if you want to leave it in the cranberry sauce. So I'm going to let this cook down, and every once in a while I'm just going to come back and give this a little stir. Let me turn the heat up just a little bit on that. So that rosemary is really going to impart a wonderful flavor to the cranberry sauce. Okay, now we have our turkey stuffed with those chestnuts, breadcrumbs, and cheese. And now we have to think about making the pastry for a tart that we're going to do. So we want to make something called a crostata in Italian, which translates to tart. And for it, we want to start out with 2 cups of unbleached flour. And remember what I've always told you, lightly measure the flour into your measuring cup so you don't pack the flour in, and then you'll have too much flour, which will create a very tough dough. So 2 cups of unbleached, and then a half a cup of sugar goes in, and a pinch of salt. And then all you want to do, if you're doing this in a food processor, that's fine. You can do it in a bowl with a pastry blender. Just get that mixed up. And after it's mixed, well, then you want to put in the rest of the ingredients. And here we've got about 6 tablespoons of butter. This is unsalted butter. That goes in. And we're really making something called a pasta frolla, which is a basic Italian pastry crust. And 2 egg yolks. So now you want to get that incorporated as well. So let that go. And then have ready some ice water, because you need to get this into a ball of dough. You don't want to use so much water that you've created a very wet dough. You want something that's just beginning to hold together. So this you have to do by eye. So I'm going to add, about 2 tablespoons of water and see where that gets me. And if you're using a food processor like this, you'll want to stop and check that dough. Pick it up with your hands. Be careful of the blade. And I know that that is just moist enough. I can tell. So I'm just going to let this go for about a second longer, just until it starts to form. You see? I knew it all the time because I've made so much of this stuff. So then you take it over and you want to chill this, because it'll be a lot harder to roll it if you try to roll it when it's soft like this. So take it out, and you see how nicely that just comes together, and put it on a piece of wax paper, or you could use some plastic wrap for this. Get that all out, and then wrap it up like this. Put it in the refrigerator. And it's going to stay there, for about an hour and a half. And then, after that dough is chilled, you want to bring out the chilled dough and roll it out. So let me show you what we have here. This is a 10-inch tart shell. Let me wipe my hands off for a minute. A 10-inch tart shell that we have formed with half of the dough, you see? And now we want to make the filling for this. So you can have that made ahead and then make the filling. Let me go back to my cranberries here for a minute to show you that these are now starting to just burst from their skins, which means that they're cooking down nicely. And I like to leave these sort of whole. I don't like to have a mushy cranberry sauce. So as they start to pop, keep your eye on it and then stop it as it's starting to thicken. But try to keep the cranberries in their partially whole state. So that's looking very nice. Okay, now for the filling, we want some figs. And here we've got fichi secchi, which are dried figs in Italian. And here are figs. Now you can buy figs, dried figs, anywhere. Here they are. You get them in a package. They usually come in on a string. About a couple dozen of them. And here they are dried. And figs, you know, have a very high sugar content, so they're very, very sweet. Here they are plumped up. We've cooked the figs in water, in about 2 cups of water. So I've got a half a pound of figs that I've cooked in water, and here they are. And they're all chopped up now. You see? I've just coarsely chopped them up. And with them, I want to have some pine nuts. Now here are pine nuts. And these I've toasted, and they're very expensive, but you only need a little bit, and they give a wonderful crunch to this tart. And these come from the stone pine tree in Italy. They're very hard to extract, and that's what makes them so expensive. Now, let me see how we're doing here. This is almost done. 1 more minute, and I'm going to turn that off. Okay, so there are our pine nuts. We have our figs, and now we want some candied orange rind. Now, this you can find in most Italian specialty stores. You can order it by mail, and you usually see it in the grocery stores around Christmas time. If you don't have that, put in raisins. It's going to taste just as well. And here we have about 3 tablespoons of sugar. Not a lot for a tart like this, but don't forget, these figs have an awful lot of sugar. And now we want to put in some pears, and I like to use Bosc pears for this, but if you didn't have Bosc pears, well, you could use some other kind of pear. So that all gets mixed in, and then we want to add some lemon juice, fresh lemon juice, and that's around 3 tablespoons. Doesn't this look good? And actually, it's best to make this ahead, and you want to let that marinate for about an hour. Now, how are we doing here? Okay, this is good. I'm going to turn that off, and that's just about where I want that. And then we'll take the rosemary leaves out later on. Okay, so now that we have our filling, we can put our pie together, our crostata. And here is our bottom shell. And now what you want to do is take the mixture, get it all well blended. You could put a little bit of brandy in with this too. That would be very nice. And I think this is the perfect thing to have if you're trying to create an Italian style Thanksgiving. The Italians don't have Thanksgiving as a holiday, but in my house, everything's Italian. And then spread the mixture into your tart shell and get it even so that when you put the lattice crust on, it'll look beautiful. So spread out those pairs, and then you can put just a plain crust over the top, or you can make this a little bit more holiday looking by doing a lattice crust. And all you do is roll out the other half of the pie crust, and then you cut these strips. Now let me show you how that goes. Simply put the tart strips, put the pie strips across the top, you see, like so. And then to make the lattice, turn back every other one, you see? And then take the next strip, just going to simulate this for you, and do that, you see? And then take those alternating strips back over that piece and put the next strip, just like that. And then put those back. And then you continue going like this, you see? And put these two over here. You following me on this? And they go back, and then take these two, and this one goes over here. And then what you do is just take off the excess dough on the edges. You can just pinch it off like so, you see, like that. Pinch it down. So that gives a nice clean finish to the edge. And then the last thing we're going to do is brush the tart with some milk, and the milk is going to give this a very, very nice shine. Now most crostata in Italy, crostate, are made with jam, or they're made with almond paste, or they're made with ricotta cheese. So this is kind of a new way to make a crostata using some very traditional Italian ingredients. So here is our milk to give that a nice shine. And then to give this a little added crunch, you can put on some coarse sugar, some turbinado sugar, right over the top, just like that. Is that not beautiful? And what do you do with these scraps? These, you do what your mother used to do. You make little cookies out of them, put a little bit of cinnamon and sugar over the top, and you bake those in the oven too. Now, the oven is on 375 degrees, and this goes in until the crust is nicely browned. So now, we have our cranberries, we have our turkey. We've got to make a vegetable to go with this. Now let me clean up the decks a little bit and show you what I would have. I think for this particular meal, green beans, fagiolini, valdostana, in the style of valdosta from northern Italy would be very, very nice. So here I have some green beans that I have simply cooked and drained. Now these beans are al dente because that's the way Italians like to have their vegetables. And this is a very simple preparation because with it we're going to be using Fontina cheese, and this cheese actually comes from the Val d'Aosta in northern Italy. And you'll recognize this cheese because it's soft, it has a brown rind, that's what's going to tell you that it's authentic Fontina, and it's a very good melting cheese. It's very, very soft. So I want my cheese to be diced up in small pieces, you see? And then in the frying pan, or in a frying pan, melt about a tablespoon of butter. And here's my butter, all ready to go. And add the beans first. So the beans go in, and you want to let those beans just cook in the butter, for a minute or so. And you can give this a little bit of salt and pepper as you go along. I'll give it a little bit of salt right now. And then you do this just before you're going to serve Thanksgiving dinner. That's the last thing to do. Is this hassle-free or what? You've made the turkey, which can be made 3 days ahead and put in the refrigerator. And then you put on the diced up fontina. Got about, looks like a quarter of a pound here, quarter to a half a pound actually. So you put the fontina on, and that's going to melt very, very quickly. So while that's cooking a bit, just to melt the cheese, I'm going to turn the heat down on that, and now I have to go back and baste that turkey. What you want to do is come and baste the turkey every so often as it's cooking. Keep that moist, and that was one of the reasons why I asked Lee to keep the skin on the turkey as well, because that's also going to help moisten the turkey. Oh, it's smelling so good. All right, so that can stay in. And now, you remember how easy Lee Esposito tied that roast? Well, let me show you how you can tie your own. Here's a towel, which is your roast. And you've put that filling in with the chestnuts and the Parmesan cheese, the breadcrumbs, the whole thing. You roll the roast up. And then you get some butcher's twine, much like what he had in the store. And then at the top of the roast, just make a knot. Tie it real tight, not so tight that as I just did on that towel, but just tight enough to hold it. Make a knot. And then loop around and pull the string. You see? Loop. Keep going like that, all the way down. Loop, pull. You see how easy that is? And that's going to hold your roast in place as it's cooking. I'll do one more, because then when you get down to the base of the roast, you take that string and you go right back up to the top where that original knot was and tie it, you see? And that's going to hold your roast in place. All right, now that I got that with greasy hands, let me see how we're doing. Well, you see what's happening here. The cheese is starting to melt nicely on the beans. The cranberries are ready. This is a Thanksgiving dinner that is hassle-free, but is Italian style. So, there you have it. Una festa del ringraziamento. Amici, la festa del ringraziamento è pronta. Our Thanksgiving dinner, Italian style, is now ready, starting right here with the rollato di tacchino, our stuffed turkey breast that's full of chestnuts, Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, fresh breadcrumbs, and herbs. And to go with this, how about fagiolini Valdostana style, our green beans that we have coated in fontina cheese. And with a turkey breast like this, you have to have cranberries Italian style, and in this case, ours have been laced with fresh rosemary leaves. And what would I serve for dessert in a Thanksgiving dinner Italian style? A crostata di fichi secchi e pere. And here, it's all ready for the cutting. And now it's time to cut you a slice. And this is just chocked full of wonderful ingredients from the Italian countryside. Pine nuts, dried figs, and there is your slice. And until I see you nella cucina again, I'm Marianne Esposito. Ciao.